Hi everyone. This week's Parsha is Acharei-Mot, and it's also the day before the first night of Passover, Pesach. Tomorrow night is the first Seder. It's also Shabbat. So in this week's Parsha Acharei-Mot, there are two main concepts. The first half of the Parsha is all about the Yom Kippur ceremony. Right? The Kohen Gadol, he does a bunch of procedures for Yom Kippur. And then the second half of the Parsha is all about Arayot, about forbidden relationships. Now, I want to focus specifically on the first part of the Parsha, about the Kohen Gadol and his service, his Yom Kippur service. And basically, what does he do? He goes through all these procedures and steps, and he comes out, he atones for all of the sins of the entirety of the Jewish people. Right? It's very, very powerful. So, it really shows that the effort you put in, right? The Kohen Gadol is going through all these things, and it shows the effort you put in is what you're going to get out. Right? Which is something we know. It's an everyday work. Obviously, if you put in more effort, your product's going to be better. Now, for all of us, it really shows that it's up to the individual, right? Because it's very nice on Yom Kippur, after Yom Kippur, the day after maybe, right? We all have a clean slate. The Kohen Gadol granted us a clean slate. Hashem granted us a clean slate through the procedures of the Kohen Gadol. And it's very nice. But the question is how are we able to keep that clean slate the rest of the year? And to answer that question with the concept I mentioned before, is that it's all up to you. It's all up to the individual, right? It's our responsibility. If we want to keep our slate clean the rest of the year, it's up to us to do that, all right? So to connect it all back to Pesach, right? There are many connections between Yom Kippur and Pesach. I just want to highlight one in specifically. So we start off Magid, the storytelling section of our Seder, with a phrase, halach ma'anya, right? It's very famous. That's how we start off. And it talks about how this bread, matzah, our bread of affliction, our bread of dependency, right? How this bread our forefathers ate on their way out of Egypt. Now, that's just the way to read it on the simple level. If you take a deeper look into these words, into the whole phrase, into the whole pasuk, you see that it's not just our forefathers ate this bread, this matzah, on their way out of Egypt, but really, they ate it for the 210 years that they're in Egypt. And that raises a bit of a problem. Now, why? Right? Matzah itself is called lechem oni, right? The bread of our affliction. But yet, at the Seder, right, it says in Psachim Daf Kuf Tet Zayin Amud Bet that matzah is our sign of freedom. So how is it the bread of our affliction? How do we eat it for 210 years as slaves, but it's also our sign of freedom, right? Doesn't make sense. So when you think about it, right, it makes perfect sense that the Jews ate matzah throughout their entire time, 210 years in Egypt. Why? Because it's cheap, it's easy to make, it has a long shelf life. So the Egyptians were like, oh yeah, of course we're going to feed the Jews matzah, right? They're slaves, let's feed it to them. So for us, how do we resolve this problem? That on one hand, it's the bread of our affliction, but the other hand, it's our sign of freedom. So to answer this, we can answer with a very beautiful idea. So the Sforno says, throughout the entire time in Egypt, right, our forefathers, they were afflicted, right, they underwent horrific events and very painful daily lives, right? But yet, the entire idea of the Seder, of Pesach in general, is that being slaves is not a physical attribute. It's not a physical trait, right? It's all mental. We say in the Torah, right? The pasuk says that Paro gave the Jews avodah kasha, avodah kasha. That Paro gave us hard work to do. Why? To mess up with the way we think, right? Now we're bound to Paro. He's giving us all this work. We can't even think for ourselves, and that's the main issue. So the Sforno says that, right, slavery is something that's not physical, it's something mental. Therefore, when our forefathers were leaving the land of Egypt, they were able to overcome that mental slavery and really announce themselves as free people. So to connect it all together, just like on Yom Kippur, how it's up to us to really determine whether we want to keep our slates clean for the rest of the year until next Yom Kippur, or until forever, which would be even better. So too on Pesach, we learn out from the matzah That's up to us. First of all, what we want to take out of Passover or Pesach, which is a very, very special time in our year. And also, if we can ask ourselves the question, can we turn our own bread of affliction that we've been eating for 210 years, figuratively, and turn it into our sign of freedom? Right? It's something that each and every one of us should really think about. Do we have the ability to do that? To turn our affliction into freedom through our mental capabilities? So I just want to give everyone a bracha that we're able to overcome the chains that are holding us back, that are telling us every day just to blame our surroundings for our problems, right? And part of that is to really admit that's all up to you. You are the only one that will be able to tell yourself that now today I'm going to turn my bread of affliction and turn it into my sign of freedom. And with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, Chag Kasher V'Sameach, happy Passover, happy Pesach, and I'll see you all next week.